We're in a new space, so we're going to see if the sound here sucks and is super echoey. It might change for the next one. We're also going to get better lighting for next time. This is going to be a kind of short video today because I've been playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom, and even though I've beaten it, I really don't think I've finished it. This is the first video game in a long time that's made me want to actually stop and go spend 75 hours in this game. But this video is also kind of inspired by the fact that I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom and hearing people talk about it online because obviously it's huge, it's fantastic. But the main criticism I've heard, especially from a lot of people who don't play a lot of games on Switch, is that the graphics are bad because it's the Switch. It's like an 8-year-old smartphone CPU inside it that's backed up by a GPU that would have been state-of-the-art in 2011. Maybe not that, but it's still not great by today's standards. And I am here to say, no, the graphics are not bad, because good graphics does not necessarily equal how many pixels per second your console can fart out of its HDMI port. Like ray traced lighting, tons of polygons, tons of pixels, high frame rates does not equal good graphics. Like, sure, the Switch absolutely has games with bad graphics in it, but this is not down to the hardware of the console necessarily. This is down to either artists not caring, or more commonly probably time crunch that forces them to make subpar graphics. But I would argue the quality of graphics is much more down to the art direction and the passion of the artists who are making the game. And of course, as far as unrealistic deadlines go, I kind of think that this Pokemon screenshot is a pretty good example, because Pokemon is not a series that you really can delay. There are so many pieces of tie-in merchandise and other media that line up with every Pokemon release, they can't really push it off for another year because they want to test the physics engine and make sure it's as perfect as it can be, which is exactly what Tears of the Kingdom did, and one of the reasons why it's so good. I want to stop filming and go play this game more. I know it's been 2 months, but still. So yeah, Tears of the Kingdom has stuff like frame rate drops, but in my opinion, that doesn't really compromise the experience as much as something like designers running up against unrealistic deadlines and then being pushed further and further because they got to release more and more because they've been delaying this game all this time and then over-promising because they want to keep people interested. But purely the graphical fidelity of a game does not equal quality of graphics. A game like Celeste has given me way more than a game I've ever played with RTX on. And I understand this is completely subjective, so you can disagree with me all day, but I would rather look at something like this that was clearly crafted with love and passion for game design, rather than something that was, just farted onto a system by some corporate studio who needed to make a game so that they could drive their share price up a little more. And even when you get into something like the Wii, that was ridiculed at the time for not having the graphical horsepower that was kind of becoming the standard with the Xbox 360 and the PS3. It couldn't output in HD. That being said, I think that it produced some of the best graphics that I saw that generation. Super Mario Galaxy has so much color and life and love and passion put into the game that I would so much rather play this than whatever Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed they were making at the end of the generation. Sure, the textures are a little bit blurrier, but doesn't really matter if the textures that are sharper are more boring? Am I saying that all of this is subjective and there is no such thing as bad graphics? No, there is such thing as bad graphics. I have played Waialae Country Club True Golf Classics. There's no defending this. I know what objectively bad graphics look like. Am I saying that graphics don't matter? Absolutely not. Well, I think that stuff like gameplay and story certainly matter much more. Graphics that are glitchy and uninspired are absolutely bad graphics. They're working against what the game is trying to do as far as tell you a story and bring you into a world. I'm going to come back to Zelda for just a moment because I think that this is just the perfectly relevant time to be talking about this. Because you see, on May 12th of this year, we got this beautifully crafted, well-refined, rich and vibrant world to explore. Sure, it's only rendering in 1080p at its absolute best, and it drops frames, but I don't care, because this is so much fun to play. If I'm being completely honest, even the story is a little take it or leave it. The story of Zelda games has never been the big draw for them, but it's so fun to, even as kind of a slower gaming experience, explore this world, explore all the parts they expanded from Breath of the Wild, build weird stuff out of Zonai devices. At least for me, this is exactly what games should be. And it's backed up by this really well thought out art style that these designers put so much work and love into that even though there are a lot of different kinds of art in it from the different regions, it ties the world together and makes me want to discover more about what the history of each section might have been and what might have caused them to build something here or draw something there. But you see, 13 days after this came out, we got this ray-traced dumpster fire of a game. I don't have a copy of Gollum because I don't want one. It's strange that even just like, not even going to play, but even reading the synopsis and the stuff with them trying to get you excited about the game, it sounds really boring. But this isn't a video about story or gameplay, even though not having played it, I could go on. This is a video about graphics, and honestly, I think that this is a place where this game fails the most. There is some cool art design and interesting character work done in parts of this game, but none of that was done by the people designing the game. All of the design work here was done by the people who worked on the movies like 20 years ago. So this makes it... I'm still so confused by this fact that the one piece, one main piece that they really wanted to show off, that they decided to do themselves in-house for the game studio, was the design of Gollum. Like, there was nothing wrong with the one that they made for the movie. If they wanted to make their own way and kind of give their own identity to their main character, I understand that. But why make him look like this? Like, this is... Okay, and stick with me on this one, because I'm also a little bit confused by this metaphor. This looks like if instead of Andy Serkis being Smeagol and turning into Gollum, like Brent Rivera was corrupted by the One Ring. It looks like a TikTok boy turned into Gollum. And like, Gollum in the movies is kind of gross. That's the point of the character at certain times, but you know, ultimately you can feel sympathy for him and he's a more complex character. But video game Gollum? I just want this to happen to him more than the movie one. So yeah, like I've been saying, Gollum looks bad to me when comparing it to Tears of the Kingdom. But I'd argue that this even looks worse than older Zelda games. No, older than that one. Okay, not... Okay, that's just unfair. Bring it back a little bit. N64 looks chunky and hasn't aged well in many ways by today's standards. But I would still so much rather look at this than this. Like, yeah, sure, this one has orders of magnitude more polygons to it, and more pixels on the screen, and more frames per second, and a literal kiss on the mouth from the developers for actually being willing to buy their stupid game. But this one comes with the knowledge that these developers really cared about making something that you wanted to play. When Ocarina of Time came out, it was one of the biggest, most complicated games ever made, and it took immense amounts of human resources and financial power just to get it done. But this is where modern consoles and PCs do lead to better graphics. I would argue that newer hardware isn't about always hitting the pinnacle of what's possible in computer graphics. It's about giving developers more flexibility to design the experiences that they want to make. So something like Ocarina of Time, it would still be hard and would take a long time, but if a person or a small team had the passion to, they could make this kind of experience nowadays. The hardware is available to them, the education is free online, as well as the programs to make it are available for them to just download on pretty much any PC. As long as it's not like, you know, one of those actual terrible ones that you can buy at Walmart for like $3, but will like rob you as soon as you get home because it's terrible and you shouldn't buy these. But with modern games on newer hardware, that's what we should be looking for. Not necessarily the best numbers out of a game in terms of what it can put on screen, but the fact that people were able to make something that they wanted to make.